Live from the Business RadioX studio in Atlanta, it's time for Dental Business Radio. Brought to you by Practice Quotient. Practice Quotient bridges the gap between the provider and payer communities. Now here's your host, Patrick O'Rourke.
Hi there. Welcome, friends of the dental industry. I am your host, Patrick O'Rourke. This is our inaugural episode of Dental Business Radio, and we have been blessed with the opportunity to have Teresa Duncan of Odyssey Management with us. Teresa, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Georgia.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Congratulations on the podcast. I'm excited.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It seemed like all the cool kids were doing it. And so, I know you have a podcast, right?
I do. It's called Nobody Told Me That.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And I want to be cool like you.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to do that.
Uh-huh. So, we know each other from different conferences, and we're in this industry, and most of the time you're speaking, you are a very sought after speaker. I can't imagine that you're speaking a lot these days.
It is webinar city nowadays. Webinar city, podcast city, which is actually okay. I am, after adjusting, I am okay with this COVID break. Now, I don't know if I'm going to say the same this time, 2021, but for right now, all right with it.
Right. I try to find things to be grateful for, so I spend more time with my children, and, it's given me an ability to launch this platform and raise our visibility, because part of our mission is to educate. So I've had, definitely done more podcasting, which I haven't done in the past. And webinars are a little bit different because, you can't tell. And are people getting it or not? Are they not in their heads? Are they in the room? Are they reading the newspaper? Are they flicking off the phone? I don't know.
Well, no, honestly, you have to just assume that they're loving what you give them. I've given a ton of webinars over the years, and somebody said to me a long time ago, you already know when you speak in person that they like what you're saying because they're smiling back at you. Those same people are smiling when they're listening to you. And I've just stuck with that. But it is weird the first couple of times when the only person looking at you or the only thing looking at you is your dogs. But once you get past that, it's all good. I love giving webinars now, and the interaction afterwards is awesome. They pop over onto the Facebook page and say hi or send me an email, and I kind of dig that.
Yes, yeah. I've come to embrace it as well, and so it kind of, maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm on the line, I don't know, but I just got on Facebook recently, and part of it due to your comments, actually. So now I'm there.
I was shocked. I said, "Oh, look at this! Patrick's on Facebook." Oh, but then I thought maybe it's somebody who stole his identity, but it was actually you.
I have discovered some long lost cousins and old high school friends, and so it's been great. It's been awesome. Mostly positive, actually really all positive. The only downside is occasionally I get on there and I feel like 2 hours of my life just got lost.
Well, 2 hours of your life and 2 hours of hearing everybody's political opinions that you really didn't honestly care about anyways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I want to get on and find out what my family's doing and what funny things my friends are doing. I don't want to know really anything else. So the unfollow button and snooze button have been lifesavers on Facebook.
Unfollow, snooze. Awesome.
Yes. It's a wonderful thing because your friends, you love them, but sometimes you really don't want to hear from them.
Check and check. All right. So I've learned something already today that makes this program worthwhile thus far. So we kind of jumped into it before. I know you really well, but maybe all of our listeners don't know you all that well. Do you want to tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Sure. My company is Odyssey Management, and what I'm known for is giving tons of insurance information. I do insurance trainings. I do participation workshops, which is a lot. Those two right there are how I met Patrick, because we tend to go to the same insurance industry meetings. I also give talks on management because I'm a manager at heart. That's kind of my audience. And so I appreciate their efforts in the field. And I'm a podcaster, like I said. Nobody Told Me That is the name of my podcast. And I have a book called Moving Your Patients to Yes, Easy Insurance Conversations. So all things insurance, dental insurance is really what I'm known for. And I am just geeky enough to get out there and want to talk about it all the time.
Gotcha. You and me both. That's why we're like two peas in a pod. Yeah. I know I understand everything that you're saying, and you understand everything that I'm saying. One thing that I realized earlier this year, I was with a longtime client, and we were at a convention in Richmond, and we're sitting there at lunch, and I was talking about something that's pretty basic, and he's like, "So insurance companies need the docs. They need the doctors. Got it. I'm going to retain that." And I was like, what are you talking about? And he says, "Yeah, Pat, I only understand 3 to 5% of what you say, really." And it dawned on me, and I'm like, well, I've known you for 8 years. And he's like, "Yeah, so now I'm about 50% about what you're talking about."
Hey, you know what? If you're moving the bar, then you're going in the right direction, right?
That's a good point.
But it brings up something that I think we as educators, because I know you speak too on the topic. We as educators, I think we have to realize not everybody loves the subject like we do, but they still need to understand it. I remember having to educate a girl on what a deductible was and when it was applied. And that's something that, I feel like I came out of college knowing that, or high school knowing that, and she just had never worked with it before. So, and now people are leaving dentistry a lot now. You're probably seeing it. A lot of doctors wanting to retire, team members wanting to walk away with all this PPE. So we're going to get a fresh batch of people that have no idea what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And God bless you for training all of them. That is not it's not our wheelhouse. In fact, endorsement of Teresa Duncan in her workshop, we actually sent some of our team up there. We flew them up to Virginia and had them sit in training. That's how highly thought of you are by me and by our organization.
Thank you. They were very fun too. They sat in the back, and I know who's goofing off, and they were not goofing off. So they did really well. And with this COVID now having to be home, there's just as many people that need to be trained. So I'm working on improving what I have online. I have an online course now, and it's getting revamped as we speak. And hopefully we launch by the end of, I would say, middle of September is what we're aiming for. And that way, people can still get the information they need and not have to put on a whole spacesuit to go and get it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amen.
We even go back to conventions. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I hope so. I really enjoy conventions. It's one of my favorite parts. I'm not a big fan of traveling, but I like being there when I'm there. I like to go around and talk to different people and say, all right, well, what's going on? And it's just easier, and you're talking to folks that you wouldn't normally think to talk to. And so I found that, it's just a good way to build relationships. It's a good way to learn about the industry as a whole. And certainly as a speaker, I think you have more access to folks. And so I do hope they can come back, and I get a couple beach trips out of it, which gets me out of the family beach trip every year. My wife always wants to go, and I'm like, we're from Florida. We have to keep going back.
There's a special charm about Orlando. For me, we try to go to Disney at least twice a year. And now I don't know how that's going to look. In fact, I was scheduled to go to CDA in May, and I had a day ticket for Disneyland to go see the Star Wars exhibit. And then this silly virus comes along and ruins that plan. So I just hope we're done with this by this time next year.
I'm with you. Fingers crossed. So, well, are you seeing any managers shifting their duties in order to be more efficient? So the ones that are coming back, and now there's a lot more stuff to do.
There's a lot more stuff to do. There's also new team members to train, because the managers tended to be the ones who would hang in there because they have the most tasks to do, and the doctors tend to be more paperwork reliant on them. So we saw a lot of assistants deciding not to go back, hygienists holding off because they were on the front lines with the airborne particles and all of that. But the managers really didn't think about not coming back. Well, now we have managers who are just exhausted. They're tired. I have at least 5 right now that I'm talking to that are they're tired. and patients are grumpy and not being nice right now. And insurance has always been a bane, of their existence. And right now, any other job paying the same looks a lot better than dentistry. And so I really fear we're losing a lot of good people. So my advice, I think, to the dentists out there that are wondering, how do I do this and how do I still maintain that high level of efficiency, is to listen to your manager and perhaps look into alleviating some of the jobs that they're doing. Most managers are already doing too much. And if you take away simple things like eligibility, benefit checks, confirming appointments, even double checking the software that confirms the appointments, there's a ton of things that can be taken off of the manager's plate, and that frees her up or him up. The value of a manager, to me, is somebody who can really think strategically about your office. And if they're too busy doing busy work, they're not going to be able to help you move the practice forward. You're just going to be running in place because that's all he or she can do at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see it all the time. Is, we can't. What we do is fairly complex, and as you mentioned, it's not everybody's favorite subject, and so then we have to get all the stakeholders on the phone, and then we have to describe the current environment, and then what we need to do to move it, and the advantages and disadvantages, and so. I know that there's a limited attention span to do that. And so but then they have to make the decisions, and, we can tell now, after years of doing this, when they're not going to make a decision, and it's because they're just running too fast, and it's just, you're too busy running your business to run your business,
Yes.
And so you can't make any strategic decisions, and you don't realize that you're losing a ton of money, a ton of efficiency, and you're not happy either. You're not doing as good of a job as you could do, and you're not making the type of money that you should make. And you're also not being fulfilled. And if you hit burnout and then that leads to turnover, then that's an even bigger problem, and it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle.
And I'm sure you have run into the same thing I did when I was full-time consulting. I'm not doing much of that anymore, but full-time consulting, where I would train a team, and the next, maybe a month later, we'd have a check-in call, or I'd call to follow up, and it was either a whole different team or a whole new manager. And the doctor's going, can you do it all over again? And I say, well, we recorded all of the training so that you could have them. And they're like, no, you're just going to need to do it all over again. That's a lot of cost to retrain all of your people again.
Amen. Hallelujah.
So
to those that are listening.
And I feel bad for doctors nowadays, though, Patrick. I'll tell you, the weight of the world is on them. Not only do they have to provide for their family, but they know they're providing for their employee and their employee's family. And that is a big burden. You're feeling it as a business owner. I only have myself and my husband as employees, so I don't have that pressure, but I can only imagine what you all are feeling with knowing that, any decision made by outside forces totally changes your business. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been interesting. For us, we're a little bit different because we don't see patients, and we essentially just close the office. We don't have to lay anybody off or anything, and our workload certainly hasn't gone down. One of our challenges is getting the docs to sit still long enough with the various individuals that need to be part of the process to absorb the information, and then spend the time to think about it, and then discuss it amongst themselves to make the decisions and then to execute. Well, in the shutdown, that was not a problem. And so we had more calls than ever. So I feel like our relationships with our clients have gotten much stronger because we spent much more time with them and much deeper conversations. There's also been a bit of a strategic shift, and not all of our clients, but certainly a material amount of them, where for some crazy reason they were willing to take 50 cents on the dollar before, not so much now.
Right.
And it's not just a matter of, hey, we have this many patients. It's also a matter of, I'm risking, the health and welfare of myself, of my family, of my team and their family. And, there has to be a reason or a rationale to do that besides, just churning and burning.
It's interesting because what happened is we had a fear of getting off of plans, right? So that's a pretty big fear. You faced it. I faced it talking to doctors. Mm-hmm. And what happens is it gets replaced with a bigger fear. So now they're ready to move and get motivated. And yeah, as you have had those conversations, I think, first of all, the internet's buzzing with those conversations. And I've been getting lots of emails and calls about it too. And I'm wondering, is that something that you think is going to continue past this? Once COVID becomes normal part of life, I guess, as normal as you can get, do you foresee that happening? This kind of move to get off of more plans rather than, or at least be more strategic?
I do. I think once you can't unknow what you know. And so there's several schools of thought. I mean, I'm talking about our clients, but our clients, to engage us, wanted to be more thoughtful about it anyway. And so I do think that there's going to be a little bit more thought and emphasis put on it as a whole, or at least I hope so. At the same time, what I don't see is the practices that probably weren't doing very well pre-COVID, I'm sure are not doing well now. Right.
That's definitely what I've seen. Yeah. I know of quite a few closings that have happened.
And so what's going to happen? Are they going to close? Are they bought it by, corporate, so how is that going to work or change? So if I had to guess, but it's really just a guess, I think that, as a whole, it's certainly people are going to become a bit more deliberate in picking their business partners, which is certainly a positive thing. All right. Mm-hmm. This is what I preach, by the way, like that's the gospel of Patrick O'Rourke. And, whether they used our services or not. So I think that that's certainly going to happen, and it should maintain as a trend because people are becoming wiser to it. But I do think that there's going to be some that are volume based as well, because they need to be, mm-hmm. if that makes sense. But that could end up blowing up into their, face really, so if you're volume based and something goes wrong at your practice for whatever reason, right. You're going to get shut down, or nobody's going to work there.
And if you haven't, I think, added any kind of stopgap measures in case this happens again, I think you're really, the practices who just blimped along this time are really, if we go through a second shutdown, forget it. I don't know how they're going to survive it. But I do know a lot of dentists have been integrating, things like teledentistry so that they can talk to their patients in the meantime, or at least keep in contact with them. And, I always talk about how that's not a moneymaker. You're never going to be rich off of teledentistry, but it's certainly a good way to keep in touch with your patients. So I think if that's something you haven't implemented, you may want to think about that. But also, like you're saying, diversify, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You have to be strategic. And without a doubt, you and I talk about this all the time. Without a doubt, dentists tend to be very emotional about their strategy and don't look at the numbers. And so, right now, when this happened, first thing I was seeing is, I'm filling out the paperwork now. We're going to write a letter. We're going to term Delta and all this. And we're going to term MetLife. And I'm going, wait a second. Whoa. How much of your patient base is that? The same conversations you have, and they're just like, oh, well, screw it. I need to get off this plan. I need to make more money. Well, if you're in a college town and that's 80% of your clients or your patients, we need to think about this a little bit more. Calm down, have a drink, go to bed, and call me in the morning, and we can talk about this rationally. Right.
I have certainly taken a lot of calls from folks and been part of a lot of conversations, some of them public. I feel like there's a quasi fee for service only movement, and there's more than one in different parts of the country. And listen, man, it's off to you. When they call me and they're like, well, we're going to, they already have their mind made up. And they're like, well, we're going to fire everybody. Well, you don't need us then.
It's funny because I think that they're also reimagining their business models in their office, and they're realizing how much of a bloated line item insurance is for your admin side, right? So, and I'm not saying get rid of your admin. I love admin. Don't get me wrong, but there's tasks admin could be doing that are much better for patients than sitting on the phone. And, if you eliminate your most problematic carrier, that's you're making money already by doing it. So it's definitely something people think about. I'm glad we the curve, for insurance, the curve has come down and they're starting to think about it more. Before it was like, let's talk about going out and network with this. And immediately, no. I couldn't do that. I could never do that. And now, okay, tell me about that because I'm hearing that other people are doing it. And it's music to my ears. But at the same time, I'm worried that they're doing this emotionally and it's going to come back to bite them in the butt.
There has to be balance. And so, that's, I love you. Welcome to the church. You should be a deacon. You're a deacon in the church. Deacon,
honorary?
Deacon Duncan. I like it.
I love it.
So it's always three things that you need to think about, right? Number one, how much is the practice compensated, right? But that's not the only thing. Number two, how important is that network to your patient acquisition and retention strategy? Now, on a high level, how much access do you want to have as a participating provider to these various pools of discount insurance patients? Or some clients look at it as how much discounting do I need to do to fill my schedule? It just kind of depends. If you're by a base, well, TRICARE is important. If you're across the street from a hospital, then that hospital is going to be important. And so then you dive down into that. The third thing that comes up that's intangible is, are they a good business partner for you? Now, technically, we're neutral. So, this could mean anything. They make the doc do too many narratives and it's making them mad, or they don't pay their claim for 10 months, or you have a historical track record of shenanigans over many, many years.
Shenanigans. I love it.
Shenanigans, right.
And I always ask them, what's the insurance company you want to get off of first? And it's always Delta, always. And then, or I would say 90% of the time. And then I say, which insurance company gives you the most problems? And they say Delta. And then the manager standing next to them is like, no, it's, United Concordia or Guardians. It's another company. They don't realize how much time and effort they're spending with another company. So look at that first.
Right. Well, I hear about the other companies too, and I'm not going to mention any names. But, what doesn't show up on the balance sheet, right, is nobody gets up in the morning to get dressed, drive to work so they can sit on the phone for 2 hours with Acme Insurance Company just to get the wrong answer anyway. Right. Yeah. And then they have to turn around with a big smile and say, hey, welcome to our practice. It's so nice to see you.
And right now, Patrick, I'm sure you're feeling it to your team members, but the ways to get to the reps are not easy right now, especially at the level of checking on claims. And if it's not on there, or you have an additional question, a lot of their call centers were laid off, and not all of them are back up to full speed. They're customer service centers. And so, getting through to a person is, you're sitting there for hours. You're having somebody watch it while you go to the bathroom, because God forbid you go to the bathroom and it always happens. That's the rule of insurance companies. They will pick up when you're in the bathroom. Always happens.
See, I come from the other side. So I started, the first part of my career was running call centers and for an insurance company. And so I have some empathy for the folks over there. Your life cycle as a call center rep, right? You're hiring, I used to hire people for $14 an hour. And then you're sitting there for 8 hours a day. You have some manager, or director that's watching your talk times, and, you're taking 80 calls a day. And guess what? Nobody calls you up and says, hey, you guys paid that claim so fast. That was awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nobody ever calls up and says, you guys referred me to this endodontist and got the referral done real quick. And the endodontist was terrific. Just great chairside manner. And his root canal was just exquisite. That never happens.
Nope. Nope.
So the people are calling, right? And something's messed up. It's either the money or they have a toothache. And that's what you're dealing with. It's just all day long. So you need to have what I used to tell folks when I was hiring them. I said, you need to have a genuine willingness to want to help people in order to do this job and last longer than 2 days.
And a long fuse, because, some of the things I hear that managers and insurance coordinators say to these reps are just downright rude. Let's be honest. I understand you're angry, but that rep is not going to help you if you're calling them all sorts of names. And that, I grew up in North Carolina. I'm a Southern girl. That you get more flies with honey than vinegar. I've always been taught that. You ask how it's going. Mm-hmm. Weather out there. Thank you so much. All of that, and your life gets a lot easier if you're not looking for a fight all the time.
Always be professional and polite. I mean, you're spinning your wheels there anyway. It's not their fault. But that's kind of part of the thing about being Southern here. So, I'm originally from Florida, and this is where I choose to raise my children because, I live in Atlanta, but if you get off a plane from Tokyo, it doesn't matter where you're from. You get a Hartsfield, you get off a plane from Tokyo, you walk into a Publix, somebody says, "Good morning. How are you?" If you don't say good morning back, you're the weird one.
Yes, exactly. They know you're a foreigner.
Yeah.
You're a tourist.
That's right.
And foreigner means somebody from DC or New York. That's what I mean. That's
not from the South. Correct. Right. I was up in New York City not too long ago, and they're like, "You ain't from around here, are you?" And I was like, I hadn't said too much at that point. I was like, "Well, how do you know that?" And they're like, "Well, you opened the door for that lady." I'm like, "Yes, I did."
It's so funny. It's so funny.
But the South, I like it down here, and it doesn't snow. So a snow thing I can't wrap my arms around. You have a little bit of snow there in Virginia, right? Not too much.
We get our share. Yeah, we get our share. We actually are hoping for a really mild winter because right now, I don't know if you knew this, but our house got struck by lightning. I don't know if you saw that on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Our house got struck by lightning. So this is my year.
That's really a cherry on top, isn't it?
Yeah. No
2020 is like a hula hoop with barbed wire for you.
We're waiting for the siding to be done. This is a while ago. We're still waiting for the siding to be completed. And so last thing I need right now is a snowstorm or a hurricane or a typhoon. I just need 2020 to chill out right now. So if I could put a bubble on my house, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Right. Well, listen, if you ever need a place to stay in Atlanta, you can come down here.
Appreciate that.
I got a big old house. So, let's see here. So let's get to your online courses. So, I mean, I think that there's been a lot of people that are listening to webinars more, podcasts more. Are they doing any training? I would imagine training ticked up.
Yeah, my online courses have been selling, and I'm like I said, I'm in the process of updating it. And I need to message them too, because anybody who purchases the online training right now is going to get put into the new training for free, just because they've been a good customer and just thank you for being a loyal listener. And those are the ones that come to my classes and stay in contact and so forth. So they're going to have access to the new course. And right now, I thought there was going to be a lot of Zoom fatigue. And I know some people are feeling that. But as far as insurance goes, my phone is busy. People want to know when's my next webinar. And I've got a couple coming up. If you link my website, they are certainly welcome to go to the upcoming events page or Facebook page and find them. I've got a couple webinars coming up, a couple Untitled Chapter events that are going to be virtual. So there's no lack of wanting to talk about insurance. It's just that I don't think there's enough of us out there talking about insurance. I'd love to see a couple more voices. I can't train them all. Charles Blair and Roy can't train them all. Colleen can't train them all. There's a lot. There's a lot of people who need the training, and with the turnover coming, it's even a mess. So
it's really interesting. I never thought about that. I mean, we point folks really to you and some of the people that you just mentioned. A part of what this show is, I mean, I don't know, it's not really going to be all insurance, training for sure. It's going to be all about different aspects of our industry and the financial impacts. Mm-hmm. But, part of what, I do is I want to go around and educate, but, folks always ask me, they're like, well, how do you submit a claim? I've never submitted a claim. I've never worked in a dental practice. I've reviewed claims, I've been on the other side, and so it's kind of interesting. And, there's been a lot of good information and bad information. And that's the other part of the show, is to also introduce the good guys in our business, right? Good guys and ladies, in our business, because I've seen and heard a lot of strange things, that puzzle me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be Georgia polite and assume that they mean well and that it's well intentioned. All right, it's going to be my assumption.
Of course.
However, some of it is misguided and borderline dangerous. If you take the advice, and so I've just seen some really kooky stuff out there. And so I don't ever want to call anybody out on this particular show, probably. Not
today, but maybe later.
Not today, not on the first episode. But it's a way to point folks to the resources that are there, like Odyssey Management, and links will be on Dental Business Radio page just for everybody who is listening. If you need dental insurance training, you want to know how to submit a form or train an office manager, you go to them. Pat does not know how to do any of that or does not want to do any of that.
There's a lot of smart people out there that could do it. And like you said, there's some things I read on the Facebook pages, and I want to call the person up and say, no, that's going to get you audited, or that's illegal. Don't listen to that. And sometimes I'll send a private message, and because I just can't, I can't close Facebook because I think about that, but typically I'll get questions that I know exactly who gave them advice. And I'm sure you've heard that too. You have the same thing. And so it really is never going to end the education and the help that we provide. There's a need for educated insurance training out there. There's absolutely a need, and I can't train them all. So I'll do my best. But I do think in the future, you're going to see more specialized training. You're going to see some medical billing too. And I just want to put out, don't call me for medical billing, because I don't, just like you don't talk about claims, I don't talk about medical billing. I am out of my league completely with that. We send them to our friend Christine Taxon and Jan Palmer and Leslie Eisnogel. Those are people I send those claims to, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And I will get you audited if you follow my advice on medical.
Gotcha. That's good. We might be talking to them here sooner or later. Getting into the medical dental, I have folks ask me about it all the time. And they're like, well, they went to some convention or something. It's been happening actually for years, but there certainly does seem to be an uptick in interest, if you will, of medical versus dental. And so, what's your take on the integration or lack thereof?
Well, it's going to be the big boys that offer both medical and dental. For example, Aetna, Humana, United Healthcare, they both have medical and dental divisions. Whereas somebody like Delta Dental, and let's just take that for example, they're typically standalone dental plans. But what's interesting is Delta Dental of California invested in a healthcare facility, a healthcare plan up in the Pacific Northwest, Moda Health, and I know you're familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
So they and their CEO basically came out and said this is part of their strategy to diversify, which makes me think he knows something that we don't know. I have always thought that medical and dental at some point would converge, and it will. I do see that, because if depending on the change or no change in presidency, there's going to be movement somewhere around there. But if we, of course, if the Democrats take it, there's going to be more of a push towards combining it. And if the Republicans take it, there's going to be more of a push of refining what we have or repealing what we have. And I don't know what that looks like. And I'm not trying to get political. That was actually very apolitical. That was exactly what's going on. So whatever happens, my goal and your goal is to keep our clients apprised of what that looks like. And so I encourage you to learn the basics of medical billing if you think that's going to happen in your practice. And I think it will. What I want them to know is that diagnosis is going to be the most integral part of the record. So if your doctors aren't making notes of diagnosis, reasons, risk factors, and all of that, medical billing, should it come to pass where we convert completely to medical billing, you're going to hurt if you don't have all of that in there, because medical billing relies on diagnosis codes for processing of the payments, whereas dental, not so much. So that's going to be a big shift. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to take those calls when somebody calls you, Patrick, and says, should I be in network for this medical plan and this medical plan? Because I don't even want to be a fly on the wall, to be honest with you.
Yeah. You should hear some of the conversations, actually. But I'm pretty direct. Here's kind of my take. And, I learned a bit when I was in Las Vegas last year at the extravaganza with our friend Christine Taxon and you and some other folks. Shout out to the NEA buying ladies who I miss. And, the diagnosis, I think it creates liability, particularly for, we have a lot of clients that, you get a cone beam machine. Well, what are you seeing in that cone beam? If you take that as an assumption, that was the one thing where I was like, bang, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal.
Right.
It's as far as the conversion of dental to medical. We in the insurance industry have been talking about this for as long as I've been in the insurance business. So over 20 years.
That's a long time.
We're going to get medical and dental integrated because, perio and systematic and it all goes together. We're going to get our claim systems together and we're all going to talk to each other and we're going to bring down a cost care trend. Oh, yeah? Really? I heard that at last year's convention, and the year before that, and the year before that.
That's the fallacy, though. The fallacy is that their computer systems are going to talk to each other. That's not going to happen unless you have like 20 million to spare to upgrade all of them. There's just not going to happen.
Everybody thinks their technology is like cutting edge. It's a bunch of old 8 tracks and cassettes and CD players duct taped together to pay the claims. Is that an EPO claim or a DHMO claim?
Well,
hold on. That's an 8-track. We'll put it in there. All right.
Let's come up with new letters. A BOC claim. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's just kind of the reality is that there's different systems in there for different types of claims. There's different risks. And my one concern is I think that there's a push to get dental into Medicare, because, oh Lord, the baby boomers won't have dental and it's a crisis. That's not a crisis. All right. COVID is a crisis. Right. That's a problem. All right. People have been keeping their teeth longer than ever in recorded history. Don't tell me it's not a crisis or tell me that's a crisis. That's my take on it. I know that that's not popular everywhere. But if you disagree, please send your feedback to the show and maybe we'll argue about it, on the show.
I don't know if it's a blessing Medicare has excluded so much of us, but it's also a curse because it would be nice to have benefits for the Medicare population. But I think them offering the standalone plans have met that demand. And if not, the in-house membership plans that are being offered are very affordable.
Right. They're awesome.
Yeah. So I, and if an office hasn't marketed that, I think that's something they need to step up and get that out. I do think it's coming. I think by the time I retire, we will see medical and dental somehow integrating. And I don't want to think about the paperwork. That's when I stop training insurance.
Right. Yeah, amen. Really. And that's where it becomes cumbersome. So, I see it all the time. We have a lot of oral surgeons and, you have to hire 2 medical billing people to go chase down your 20 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. That's we could do a whole show on this particular topic. And,
right.
So I won't do that too much. Well, we're running up on our hour. And so let's see here. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss today that you think is important for all those out there in the dental business world to know?
I think it's very important right now to check eligibility more than ever, because what I am hearing, I was talking about this when COVID broke, but I want to reiterate that the human resources departments across the country did not update provider roles as well as they could have been, if at all, during the shutdown. Many of them were laid off, weren't working from home, just that stopped. I mean, we know there were mail rooms in insurance carrier offices that stopped completely everything. The only thing that was going was online. So the HR departments were not sending in the rolls. So all of your eligibility checks now are in good faith and you're getting positives that they are covered. But once the employee rolls are updated, you're going to get requests for money back because they were not actually eligible at the time. Remember, a lot of people got laid off, a lot of people. So we have to take that into account. So for you checking eligibility and benefits, make sure you're keeping all of those reports that you get, all of those document numbers that you're getting with the eligibility checks so that you can hopefully appeal that you did all this in good faith, or at least hold it on the patient so that the patient can pay and let the patient, duke it out with their HR department.
Good luck with that.
You're not going to avoid these eligibility false positive. You're not going to avoid them. You are going to have them. I'm hearing them a lot. You're just going to have to figure out your strategy with them.
Yeah. And I can tell you from the insurance side, so the trouble with COBRA in all of those is that that's awful risk. You're going to use a claim, so anybody who's using it, like they're taking the dental because they're going to use it. And so if they're eligible and they're able to get something done, they're going to get it done. Right. And they're like, oh, it's free. Okay, great. Right. Let's use it. Let's use it before they know. I mean, it's proven, right? So this is all tracked, so like I'm certified in it. So actually studied up on it.
I know, you know your stuff. I wanted to just explain though, because there's some people who may not understand that COBRA is an option to extend coverage, right? That the employee will pay, I think 105%, 108% or something like that of the premium. So the employee actually pays for their insurance for that. And Patrick's about the risk is that they're only paying for it because they think something's going to happen. So it is very high risk. It's going to get used. So, but HR departments are traditionally really slow in reporting COBRA enrollees too, which is why anybody who's dealt with COBRA in the dental office knows it's a pain in the butt because they're not going to be eligible the first time you call. It's just never going to happen. So so COBRA is its own. I mean, that's like 2 slides worth in my training because I have to explain why it's such a pain in the butt and how to look out for it. So
I appreciate you doing that because that's one of the things that I assume everybody knows. And nobody knows. And that's where their eyes glaze over. And I'm like, did I just slip into Portuguese in mid-sentence? What happened?
You might as well have. That could be Portuguese to people, really.
Yeah. And they're like, what's that guy talking about? COBRA for So thank you for that. I don't know. We'll have to have you on more. Or if you listen to the show, you can be like, Pat, you lost everybody at that time.
You could hire me to be a translator in the corner that whispers, what Patrick's talking about is.
That's not a bad idea. You could get your own app, right? Like Siri.
Yeah, like translate Pat.
Deacon Duncan. Deacon Duncan. This is what Pat's talking about.
Right.
Or like one of those
never going to run into
it. They're signing for
the translators.
Hearing impaired, right?
Yeah, I like to call it the benefits whisperer. I will be the benefits whisperer to you.
I like that. That'd be awesome. You're hired. All right. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Teresa Duncan, how do they do that?
So they can find me at my website, which is Odyssey MGMT, because somebody took Odyssey Management spelled out. So I had to go with OdysseyMGMT.com. I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Teresa Duncan or Tree Duncan. That's my Instagram and Twitter. Connect with me on LinkedIn. All of my dental people, you should have something on LinkedIn. So because you are a professional, so go ahead and make that final. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And, I always post up stuff about webinars, or on my Facebook page, I'm always giving out little nuggets and information. I just posted up something about you brought up NEA. I just posted something about the acquisition and what's happening with that. So pop on over and check it out.
I will sidebar on that for sure. Because I was looking into that and then I got caught up with clients, their needs.
Those darn clients.
Yeah, I love the clients. It's I'll go down a rabbit hole all day. I mean, this is what I do. I love this stuff. So I really appreciate you being on the show. This is the inaugural show with Teresa Duncan of Odyssey Management. I'm your host, Patrick O'Rourke. I would like to thank our sponsor, Our sponsor is Practice Quotient, and Practice Quotient increases practice revenue through PPO negotiations to create win-win business partnerships with dental insurance companies. PPO fee schedule allowances for services performed should represent the training and expertise of the providers. If you are a dentist or specialist and wish to take an active position ensuring equitable reimbursements are achieved and maintained, then Practice Quotient's experience would be valuable. Visit their website at www.practicequotient.com or call 470-592-1680.
There you go.
All right.
What Patrick was talking about was a wonderful company that knows what it's doing. So give them a call. How's that?
That's awesome. All right. Dink and Duncan.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you to everybody on Dental Business Radio Show, John Ray, Diane, and everybody who helped make this possible. Thank you guys so much. And to all those out there in the dental industry that are listening to this, thank you very much for your time. Until next time, this is Patrick O'Rourke.